Hello, my name's Christopher Stevens. I'm director of the Susanna Wesley Foundation, and I'm here with Sharon Ferguson, who is one of our PhD students, to tell us a little bit about her work. So Sharon, why don't you tell us first what your title is and what your project is about?
Well, I'm not sure that I have a definitive final title yet, but basically my research is looking into the possibility that gender isn't necessarily binary. What I mean by that is that we tend to always think of gender as you are either male or female. But I believe that there is scriptural support to say that actually we should be understanding ourselves, each individual person, as both male and female. And so I'm looking into that and looking into how have we got to the place where we're at today with understanding gender in this way. What is the difference between biological sex and how we understand our gender with regards to identity, and also how both of those influence or impact upon how we understand our sexuality. And then what would it actually mean for us as individuals, for us as people of God, for us as members of a church or in church leadership, if we start to think of gender in this different way.
And so how did you come across that as a subject?
It started up quite a few years ago now when a member of my congregation came to talk to me because they didn't quite know where they fitted. They didn't feel that they were a transgendered person in the sense of wanting to go from one gender to another, but also didn't feel that they identified completely in any one gender. And so we started these conversations, and then whereas I had done loads of work around what it meant to be a child of God and to be gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgendered, I hadn't actually done anything around what if you didn't fit into any of those categories. So in order to support this member of my congregation, I started to go back to scripture and look at how can I help this person to understand that they are made in God's image and loved by God if they don't fit into the categories which we currently understand and accept. And that basically started me on this journey.
Excellent. And what do you think the difference will be for people like that person in your congregation when you come to the end of your doctorate? Are you going to make all sorts of dramatic recommendations for churches to change what they do, or what will change?
I think there's a lot of subtle changes that could be seen. For example, this might sound like nothing to most people, but often we talk about people in the church as my brothers and sisters. Well, if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily identify as either male or female or identifies as both, you might not be able to relate to the term like brothers and sisters. So you might, again, feel excluded in some way just from the language, which is supposed to be inclusive language. So what does it mean with the words that we use, in the way we greet people, in the liturgies that we write? How can we change how we write liturgy to make people, whatever their gender identity is, to actually feel that they are included within that family of God? So that's one of the types of things that I'm looking at, but also looking at the wider impact of all of that as well in what does it mean for leadership? How could this person be a leader within a church if people don't know how to address them? Mm-hmm. And about how uncomfortable people are if we don't fit into the constructs which they're comfortable with. So there's an awful lot of different things that I'm hoping will come out of this and I'll be able to make recommendations about.
Excellent. And have you noticed energy in the churches to embrace these questions?
I have with some churches. Some of them have just sort of been a bit, oh, well, that's different. Oh, do let me know how it goes. That sort of polite thing. What I've also found, though, is interest from people who don't normally attend church, whose identity fits into this category, who have expressed how, if they felt the church would accept them as they are, how they would like to actually come back. And that for me as well is a very telling thing when we're here all the time about how church attendance is going down and down and down. But, here is possibly a group of people, albeit a very small minority, of people who would actually like to have that spiritual connection, but don't feel that they would be welcome at this point in time.
So developing this area of engagement with diversity within the churches, that could actually be a model for church growth, which is really the watchword at the moment, isn't
yes,
it? How do we grow?
I think it certainly can, because I think a church that can show that it's accepting of people regardless of their gender identity will also be a place where other people who have traditionally been excluded may feel that they would be able to find a place as well. So I do think it has that knock-on effect. But I also do feel that it not only addresses things like diversity, but also does address things like leadership. How do you lead people with such diversity amongst themselves, and have a proper understanding that it's not just lip service that you're giving. So where at the moment would somebody in church leadership find that information if if somebody else came to them, like the person did to me in my church? If somebody in their church came to them, where would they go to even begin to be able to understand how to pastor that individual? So I'm hoping that my research will fill that gap a little bit in actually be providing a resource for church leaders to be able to pastor their flocks more adequately.
Excellent, that's very exciting. And so we're very pleased that you're doing this with us at the Susanna Wesley Foundation. How do you find that your work is mixing in with the other types of work we're doing as a body of researchers?
One of the things which I love about the Susanna Wesley Foundation is its diversity. Every time I meet somebody else connected with it, they seem to be doing something that's slightly out of the box, slightly different. But and I think that's a real strength, because when we hear these words of diversity, leadership, training, we all have this very set idea of what that means, and we start going down that same path. And what I'm finding with the foundation is that they are trying to look at these things from a very different perspective and really broaden out what actually is involved under these headings. So initially I thought, well, how would what I want to do fit into the overall aims of the foundation? And what I've found since I've been part of it is that it fits perfectly, because what I'm looking at covers all of the different strands that the foundation is there to deal with in different ways. So I feel very comfortable within how I fit into that.
Excellent. Well, we wish you every success, so we're very pleased to have you with us. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you very much.